Have you ever been in circumstances that you thought, I wonder if God knows what's going on in my life? I wonder if God cares. Why is this happening to me? You ever asked that question? I certainly have. Today we're going to be talking in Psalm 10 about that very question. And we're going to be comparing the believer and the non believer, those who depend upon God and those who do not. And we're going to be talking about the characteristics and the future of both of those types of people. And we'll be doing that today when we come right back. Hi, and welcome to Bible Study with Friends, where our goal is to help you get more impact from your Bible study, how to mark it, how to really dig deeply into it, and how to apply it to your life. And today we're going to be in an interesting psalm. It's interesting from the aspect of, in a lot of Hebrew Bibles, as Jewish, the Old Testament Bibles, Psalm 9 and 10 are the same psalm. In fact, when the Septuagint was written, the Septuagint was the Greek version of the Hebrew. They wrote it together, but we're going to look at it two separate. Psalm 9, we talked about last week, really emphasizes the comfort for the afflicted. This psalm emphasizes the destination of the wicked, and we're going to see that as we go here. So the emphasis, in fact, the word wicked and wickedness is used 7 times in these verses. So it's really a repetitive theme of prayer about the wicked. And we'll see that as we go. Are you ready to go, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Jerry Duckett and I are going to continue our study in Psalm by going into this one and just continuing our discussion. Looking at Psalm 10, what strikes you about the first verse before we read it?
One thing that I noticed right off the bat is it doesn't start off with any directions for the choir.
Yeah, there's no
Continuation.
superscription. There's no title. That's why a lot of scholars think it's just a continuation. But in the Christian Old Testament, it is Psalm 9 and Psalm 10. We're just going to read them as if they were together, but we're going
Right.
to study them separately. So anyway, it's interesting to me that we start the verse 1 of Psalm 10 with a question.
Yes.
Do you notice that?
Yes.
Go ahead and read verse 1.
Why do you stand afar, O Lord? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble?
Okay, first question then that we ask is, who is being addressed? Who is the writer talking to?
To God.
Okay, so this is a prayer. I put over here on the left, this is to God, right? So why do you stand afar off? This is a prayer. And it's a prayer asking a specific question that so many of us ask when we're having a difficult time, when we're being afflicted by other people or circumstances. This is a question that we ask the Lord a lot when we go to prayer. We go, why is this happening?
Yeah. Where are you?
Where are you? Why are you waiting to solve this issue? Right?
Yes.
Now, what's interesting is that's a good question. And God does not say, don't ask that question, but also God does not answer it. Okay.
Right.
Now we find that through Psalm. David asks a lot, why is this happening? Why is this happening? How long is this going to happen? And God never says, don't ask that question, but he also doesn't answer it. The answer is our conclusion based upon our understanding of who God is. And we're going to get to the answer to that question
At the end.
in a few
Right.
verses, okay?
Yeah.
From verse 2 on, it is to us. It is not a prayer, okay?
Yes.
I'm going to read this because this goes into the temporary success of the wicked. It says, in pride, the wicked hotly pursue the afflicted. Now, if this was still a prayer, it'd be the wicked hotly pursue us because we're talking to God here. But he goes, let them be caught in the plots which they have devised. Now, this is a theme of 9 and 10. Look up at verse 16 of Psalm 9 and read that verse.
The Lord has made himself known. He has executed judgment in the works of his hands, and the wicked is snared.
Okay. So this idea is when it says, let them be caught in the plots which they have devised, this is the idea that God is going to let them get caught in their own trap.
Right.
So that they have pride. The pride of the wicked goes after the afflicted. And the thought is, allow them to be caught in the plots which they have devised, because the wicked boasts of his heart's desire. Now, this is again description of the wicked. And the greedy man curses and spurns the Lord. Now, let's talk about cursing for a second. It says that a greedy man curses and spurns the Lord. What is greedy about swearing?
Greedy about swearing?
Yeah, it says the greedy curse the Lord. Do you see that in that
And the
verse?
greedy man, somebody who's self-centered, it's just out for their own good, their own benefit.
Okay. And they basically curse the Lord because it's clear in his scriptures that the Lord has other plans. And the wicked doesn't like the plans God has. He wants his own plans. So he basically says, the plans God has, let them be accursed. All right. It's this superior feeling that the wicked have over us.
I looked up that word spurns the Lord. You want to hear my definition of that?
Yeah. Look, you came to a word there. He boasts in his heart's desire, and the greedy man curses and spurns the Lord. What does spurns mean?
Hardiness to reject with disdain or contempt.
So that's this idea. This man, he's greedy for his own plans, so he curses God and he spurns, he makes fun of, he puts down the Lord. Now we know this is not a prayer, because if this was a prayer, it would read, the greedy man curses and spurns you.
Oh, yes.
So we know this is not addressed to the Lord. This is addressed about the Lord to us, the reader. And it continues on. The wicked, in the haughtiness of his countenance, does not seek him. Capital H does not seek the Lord, right? He spurns the Lord, and in his haughtiness and countenance, he does not seek him. Now, what does haughtiness mean? Did you look that up?
Yes, I did. It's the appearance or quality of being arrogantly superior or disdainful.
That's it. I looked it up in my dictionary, and it says, showing contempt for people or things considered inferior. This idea of a haughty attitude is everybody else is inferior to me and what I want. Now, the next word that I had to stop and look up was his countenance. Did you look up that word?
No, I didn't look that one up. No.
All right. The countenance, and I think of, every time I read that verse, I think of Cain and Abel, that when Cain didn't like the fact that God had not accepted his sacrifice, it says his countenance fell. It's the kind of the look on your face, the way you appear.
Right.
Is your countenance.
Yes.
Okay. Now, if you go to that verse then, with our definitions, the wicked, in his pride and superior feelings of his look, of his appearance, he does not seek God because he's too proud.
Too proud to, yes.
And he considers God, even God, inferior. Because it continues on in verse 4, all his thoughts are, there is no God.
No God.
Now, this is a philosophy we see in the postmodern society of basically saying there's no God. So I don't have to be held accountable to any Bible commands or anything like that. I'm not responsible to God because he doesn't even exist. Flip over to Psalm 14, verse 1.
The fool has said in his heart, there is no God.
So here, the wicked is being very proud, and he's saying, hey, I can get away with anything because there's no God. And God's answer is Psalm 14:1, you're a fool. So ask yourself the question, do I say there is no God? And if I do, I'm warned that God considers me a fool and will deal with me as a wicked person. Okay, that tracking with you?
Right after that, it says, they are corrupt, they are committed abominable deeds.
It's interesting that in verse 4, he talked about that the wicked is prideful and says there is no God. And Psalm says he's a fool for saying that, but he says it in his pride. But then it says, verse 5, his ways prosper at all times. So you look at the wicked and you go, he's being very prideful, but he's doing really well.
Yeah, that sentence, that one kind of threw me.
I want to give you two places. In fact, let's turn to one. Turn over to Psalm 37, and we're going to read verse 16 and 17.
Better is the little of righteous than the abundance of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked will be broken, but the Lord sustains the righteous.
Okay, so there's a period of time when it looks like the wicked are doing really well, but their future is not a good future.
Right.
Because God is going to deal with them. In fact, we're going to see that even in Psalm 10 that we're talking about. The other psalm that I like to go to is Psalm 73. The whole psalm basically talks about the danger of envying the wicked, because we look at the wicked and they're doing great. They're fat and happy. They make a ton of money. They're all satisfied. They're in their pride. This is great. I can get away with anything. And we have to be careful not to envy them for that success, for that prospering, because the prospering is temporary. That it looks like they're prospering at the moment, but God is keeping track and their future is not good. Psalm 73 is a great psalm to read about the danger of envying the wicked and their prosperity, because they're going to end up standing before God, and that's a temporary prosperity.
Gotcha.
Okay. So now we go back, we pick back up in this description of the wicked that continues on, but now it switches to a prayer. Notice up here in verse 5, the first half, his ways prosper at all times. That's still part of that description to us. And then he says, your judgments are on high out of his sights. For all of his adversaries, he snorts at them. So now all of a sudden it's talking to God. This is back to a prayer about the wicked. When it says your judgments, if he wasn't praying, it would be the Lord's judgments are on high. But he's addressing God, so this is a prayer. And all of the rich man's adversaries, he snorts at them. He's proud and he says, oh, they can't bother me. He says to himself, this is the wicked talking, I will not be moved. Throughout all generations, I will not be in adversity. I'm going to do really well. My wealth will get me through. Verse 7, his mouth is full of curses and deceit and oppression, and under his tongue is mischief and wickedness. We won't turn there, but if you go over to Psalm 7, verse 14 and verse 16, it talks about the tongue of a wicked person is full of mischief and sin, curses and deceit and oppression. Okay. Now he's going to talk about the wicked lurking. We're going to talk about that. Let's read verse 8, 9, and 10.
Okay. He sits in the lurking places of the village and hides in places. He kills the innocent. His eyes stealthily watch for the unfortunate. He lurks in hiding places as a lion in his lair. He lurks to catch the afflicted. He catches the afflicted when he draws them into his net. He crouches, he bows down, and the unfortunate fall by his mighty ones.
All right. Now, there's this repeated word of lurking. Did you give that some thought? What is it talking about here when it says he sits in the lurking places? He lurks. What comes to mind when you read that the wicked man lurks?
The one I looked it up and it says, remaining hidden so as to wait in ambush.
Okay. So he's lurking around in the dark places, waiting to jump out and take advantage of people.
Stay out of sight.
Yeah, he's lurking in the shadows and he's jumping out the way a lion lurks. A lion waits in the shadows and sneaks up on people. And that's the wicked, that he's always looking for an opportunity to take advantage of somebody. And he's kind of waiting in the shadows to jump out and take advantage of people. He lurks. Okay. So you need to ask yourself some questions. Am I a lurker? Am I just sitting back waiting for somebody to make a mistake and then jumping on them and taking advantage of them? Do I lurk around at work waiting for somebody to make a mistake that I can go, hey, he made a mistake? That's lurking to take advantage of somebody. And this is the definition of a wicked person. who lurks around ready to take advantage of people. Now, if we go back, picking back up after verse 10, he crouches, he bows down, and the unfortunate falls by his mighty ones. This mighty plans, he's lurking, making plans all the time to take advantage of the unfortunate, the crushed people around him. That word unfortunate basically means crushed. The crushed people, they're crushed by his plans, and they fall to his mighty ones. That's talking about God. That's all these hises, if you notice, are all talking about the wicked. He sits, he lurks, his eyes, he lurks, he catches, he crouches by his mighty ones. These are all talking about the wicked person and his actions in life. And when it says, he says to himself, God has forgotten, he has hidden his face, he will never see it. That's basically saying, if I can do it when nobody's watching, I'll get away with it, because there's no accounting to God, right?
Yes.
So I really like verse 11, that this is an attitude people have, that God has forgotten about what I've done in the past. He's hiding his face. He may not even exist, and he never sees what I'm doing because I'm sneaky.
Doesn't pay attention to me.
Yeah. And Malachi chapter 3, verse 14 and 15, talk about this idea that God's not watching. I can get away with anything because God's not watching. And that's this attitude of the wicked. Now then this prayer ends with, arise, O Lord, O God, lift up your hand. Do not forget the afflicted. Now, verse 12 is a prayer that's repeated a lot. It was repeated up in Psalm 9, verse 19. It's also repeated in Psalm 3, verse 7, and Psalm 7, verse 6. It's a number of places throughout Psalms, and it's basically a battle cry for God to come and fight for you. And it's important that this is not a prayer that says, oh Lord, help me get vengeance on these wicked people. No, Lord, you take action against them. You take action that helps me, vindicates me. That's a word we're going to see in just a minute.
Yeah.
So this is not, I want vengeance. This is, Lord, you take action. And that is the hardest thing to do when somebody's giving you a hard time, to just wait and let God deal with them. Because it looks like they're prospering, they're doing really well. And you got to just wait and let the Lord be the Lord. And that's one of the lessons of this psalm. Now it continues on in verse 13. There's another why. Why has the wicked spurned God? Did you look up what spurned means?
Yeah, I did. Hardiness to reject with disdain or contempt.
All right, so why has the wicked shown contempt to God? That's basically that. Now, all of a sudden, it's no longer, verse 12 was a prayer. Arise, O Lord. I'm talking to the Lord, right?
Yes.
Verse 13, I'm not talking to the Lord, I'm talking about him. Because if it was a prayer, it said, why has the wicked spurned you? But instead, it's saying, why has the wicked spurned God? He has said to himself, you will not require it. Now, this is not God speaking. This is the wicked speaking, saying to himself, God is not going to require me to justify what I do. I'm all my own. I can do anything I want. And then the prayer continues. This is all to God here. You have seen it, for you have beheld mischief and vexation to take it into your hand. So what is vexation?
The state of being annoyed, frustrated, or worried.
Okay, so this verse is praying to God. You have beheld mischief, which is dirty dealing, basically, underhand dealing. Lurking is this idea of lurking so you can do mischief. And vexation is that you've caused this affliction, this feeling of taking advantage. And it says, you've seen that, so take it into your hand. That relates back up to, arise, O Lord, you take it into your hand, right?
Yes.
The unfortunate commits himself to you. You have been the helper of the orphan. So if I'm being taken advantage of, I need to commit myself to the Lord. Let the Lord be the helper. I don't take it into my own hands. And then the prayer, this is an interesting prayer. Break the arm of the wicked and the evildoer. This is judgment. Seek out his wickedness until you find none. In other words, judge until he's no longer wicked. And that good cross reference for that is Psalm 73, 16 to 19 talks about the wicked who's prospering. Remember, Psalm 73 talks about don't envy the wicked. It looks like they're prospering. But Psalm 73, 16 to 19 basically talks about don't envy them because they're going to have to stand before God, and God is going to break their ability. That right arm is break the ability to do evil and seek out his wickedness and judge it until there's no more wickedness to be found.
Yes.
And then we're going to end here with three very important statements. And I've underlined one in red because these answer the question of verse 1. All right. But it's not God speaking, it's us speaking to each other and then us speaking to God. The first verse, 16, is talking to us about God. Read verse 16.
The Lord is king forever and ever. Nations have perished from his hand. O Lord.
Now, wait a minute. That's talking to us about God.
About God.
God
right.
is king and he has a plan to rule over the nations, right? So if you go back to verse 1 and say, why aren't you doing something? The answer to the question is he is ruling, he's in charge, and he has a plan, and he's going to execute his plan on his timing, not on our timing.
Right.
So I ask, why is this happening? Why is this happening? How long is this going to take? And God's answer is just wait and know that I'm ruling, I'm in charge, I'm sovereign, and I have a plan. And that plan is a righteous plan of judgment against the wicked and help for the afflicted like you. That statement is to us about God. And then the last two verses are a prayer to God. And we know that because right away, verse 16 says, the Lord. And then verse 17 says, O Lord.
O Lord, yes.
So now it's switching to talk. You see how paying attention to that really helps you get a feel.
Yeah, big time.
So read verse 17 and 18.
O Lord, you have heard the desires of the humble. You will strengthen their heart. You will incline your ear to vindicate the orphan and the oppressed, so that the man who is of the earth will no longer cause terror.
Okay. Now, did you look up what vindicate means? He's going to hear the humble. He's going to strengthen their heart. He's going to incline. God is listening. Okay. And then, oh Lord, you're going to vindicate the orphan. What does vindicate mean?
That means you're recognizing it. You're establishing it as truth.
Okay. And the truth is that you're innocent. Okay.
Right.
If you're accused of a crime and you're arrested and you go to trial,
you're not guilty.
And you're found not guilty, you are vindicated. You are judged not guilty.
Right.
So God is going to hear the prayers. He's going to take action. He's going to judge the afflicted as innocent parties. So he's going to ultimately take action. So based upon the fact that he is king, the answer to why is this happening? Because God as king is allowing it to happen leading up to his judgment and his victory. So the answer to the question, why are you doing this? Because I'm allowing it for a time in order to hear your prayers, keep you humble, keep you coming to me and letting me take the action. And look at the last part of that verse, the last verse. To vindicate the orphan and the oppressed, so that the man who is of the earth will no longer cause terror. Now, what does man who is of the earth mean to you?
I studied that one for a little while because I took it as being somebody who basically just said, this is it. There is no heaven. There is no.
Okay, you're on the right track. What would a righteous man be called in the scriptures? A man of God.
A man of God.
See?
Yes.
So there are the righteous who depend upon the Lord, who trust in him as their king, that earlier verse in 16, trust in him as king. They will be people of God
versus people
as
of earth.
Compared to men of earth. They're going to die. They're going to go to the dirt.
That makes sense to me. I was studying that earlier, so you made that clear to me.
Yeah. So this idea of a man of God is different than a man of the earth. A man of God has an eye towards God pleasing him and trusting him to arise, that earlier verse. But the man of earth, it's all about the here and now. It's all about what I can get now. And it's guys that say, oh, there is no afterlife. It's all about now. These are people that are of the earth. I don't want to be a man of the earth. I want to be a man of God.
Right.
Who trusts in a sovereign God to rule over all of the activities of man, both the afflicted and the righteous who are waiting on God, and the wicked. God is sovereign over them. They're not getting away with anything. God will judge them, and they're going to be dirt.
Yeah. Well, that last sentence, he's just saying he's taken away their power.
Yep.
It's no longer cause terror.
Yep. It's like the old thing of you can be rich, but you can't take it with you. Because when you die, you can't take it with you. And I don't want to be defined as a man of the earth. I want to be defined as a man of God. And that gives us some real things to think about in the context of Psalm 10. Any other comments? Anything else strike you about that psalm?
I'm particularly happy with what you described that last sentence, because I've read that one multiple times. I was having some trouble with it.
Now, one thing you can do is when you start to think of a man of the, it doesn't say a man in the earth or on the earth. It talks about a man of the earth. So if I'm saying I'm a man of the people, that's saying that I relate to people.
You represent them.
And so I thought of that term of, and maybe I want to do a whole Bible study on of the earth. And what does of the earth mean? It means of the substance, of the here and now. A man of the earth is not a man of God, or the God of heaven is a God who is about heaven. I want to be a man of God, not a man of the earth. And that gives us something to really think about. Am I living as a man of God, or am I living wickedly as a man of the earth? An interesting question for us to consider. We've been talking about the future of the wicked of the world. What's in store for people who just deny that God has got anything to do with their lives, and those who think they can take advantage of anybody? I want to recommend a video to you. It's called, Is God Unfair? It's out of the book of Romans, the 9th chapter, and I think you'll enjoy it. And if you do, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like. And we're going to continue in our study in Psalms next week. And until then, God bless you.